comes out.
First up is the Playhouse Committee. So at the last meeting, we tabled it, the action for the general fund loan to the Playhouse pending a review and recommendations from the Playhouse Finance Committee. So that I'm asking to be appointed to this committee. So I'll open this up for discussion.
Can we finalize that in this meeting, or does it have to go on the agenda?
Well, we can finalize that in this meeting.
Yeah, yes, oh, yes. Yes.
Well, nobody else is gonna say anything, I'll speak up. I'm opposed to the mayor being on the committee. He's already on 7 committees, and we've already had this discussion back and forth and up, down, and sideways. This isn't a committee that is required by anything that, states that the mayor has to be on it, so I'm opposed to him being on it. And I'm opposed to almost everybody else that's on it also, because they're all people that are for the Playhouse, and there is nobody on the committee that has spoken out against the Playhouse. I'll leave it at that.
Does anyone else want to comment on this?
Well, I want to make clear that the motion was to refer this to committee. It wasn't necessarily to decide if the Playhouse was going to continue to operate or not. So the question was, how do we address the $70,000 shortfall, at least in my mind, and then also the long-term sustainability. So Scott, just to clarify the motion, that was the motion I thought that I put forward was, let's make some recommendations, but it wasn't to keep or not keep the Playhouse, even though you have a right, of course, to your views on that.
I'm not saying anything about keeping or not keeping the Playhouse. I'm just saying that the committee that you wanted to form, I don't agree with who's gonna be on it.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody on it that's opposed to the way the management of the Playhouse is run.
I think anybody on council who wants to be on should. I'd like to see it open to members of, a little broader to the community. That would be, of course, it's the mayor's prerogative to appoint whomever he likes, but I'd like, if anybody on council wants to be on, I'd like them to participate as well. I think we could also, put it out to the public and see if there's more people who want to participate.
I heard you say at the last meeting I wanted to be on the committee.
I did have a question, whether Eli Gazelle was considered. I highly respect Eli. He's a great business guy, good manager, and he was one of them that spoke at the last meeting about the committee. I guess he's out of town.
I did see a note here, him expressing his interest in being on that committee, and I would certainly welcome his participation in it. My concern is that I don't want this committee to be so large we can't accomplish it. And as far as I'm concerned, this committee is looking at their job should be looking at ways to keep this Playhouse operating and viable.
Well, most of the council members know that I sent along an approach for consideration when the committee gets installed, which is a short term looking at the shortfall, the immediate need, and then the latter part of next year looking at the larger sustainability issues, which I would recommend that this council at least consider that approach. Also, I had somebody who reached out to me after last meeting. Scott, what her name? I sent her name to you.
And I forwarded it to the mayor.
Okay, Mayor, yeah.
Included in it?
Yep,
Um,
she, I can't
It
remember
was,
her first name. She
uh,
spoke out.
Yes, Hunt. That was her, one of the Hunt girls, yes. I
Oh.
married a Hunt.
Yes, and I think she would be an excellent addition as well. I'm not always,
Well-
so.
I did getting your message
Okay.
with her interests, and as I told the city manager, I was not opposed to that person being on there. I mean, she was the one that got up and said, oh, I could give you a bunch of ideas and you could get $100,000 a weekend, okay? We need more than idea people. We need people that are really gonna look at this and try to find a workable solution.
Well, I would
So I'm
recommend, yeah,
I'm not opposed to this person being on there.
okay. Well, you need all kinds of people on there and,
You know, that's,
but I would recommend opening it up to more members of the public, and also, I would recommend it to, I'm not interested in any more committees, just to be clear.
How many were on that list?
But,
I've got 8.
but if there's other council members that would like to participate, I think they should be allowed to. I think that's only fair. And you know what, just get a good chairperson that can keep everybody under control. And maybe you get somebody who's more perceived as neutral to handle that. But I do think, I do want to, like I said, put forward what I said is deal with the shortfall first, which is urgent, it appears, and then look at some options for the next 9 months that are more the long-term sustainability.
Well, I know Frank Van Erich is kind of a big supporter of the Playhouse, but I don't have a problem with him running the committee because that's what he did. You know, he was what,
I think it was county administrator
Yeah.
as well, so I mean, he knows what he was
the
doing.
top guy in the county, so he knows. And he was involved in raising money to get the whole thing started in the first place, so he knows something about doing that too. So, I think that's a good one to have on there, for sure.
And Lori Steve too, I mean, Lori
Yeah.
Otto, I mean, she
Lori,
was our finance officer here at
Right.
the city, so
Right.
retired. And, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Frank is a name that I proposed, that I'm not even sure that he's gonna be willing to serve.
Oh,
I thought he seemed
I think
willing.
he would.
Well, I would hope so, but, pretty much everyone else on this list that I read to you, except for Tom, I've spoke to, and they said that they would be willing to serve on that committee.
Mhm.
Now, we got 2 other people that say they would be willing to serve on that committee. So that's 9 people that say they're willing to serve on that committee.
That should be plenty.
I think that's plenty enough people. I mean, there's people that are not on the council, not business owners, that are just citizens.
Well, I'm just gonna say one more thing, and that I run many committees. I don't tend to limit them because the first meeting you might have a dozen show up, the next meeting maybe 10, and people are busy, so I would just wanna say, if there's somebody on council who wants to participate, like Scott, I think they should be allowed that opportunity.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
If I can just maybe chime in, my numbers are different than yours. I've got 10 if you add Eli and Amanda.
Yes, that would be 10.
Somebody said 9,
That would be 10.
so just to clarify, if those 2 are added, you're.
It's got.
No, that's not on the list. He's not on the list.
At this,
He
Always.
is now. He just said he
No,
was.
he's not on the list. He's not on the list unless I put him on the list. And I want people on this committee that want to work for the Playhouse, not against it. He's done nothing but work
So your
against it.
committee is useless then? As far as the public's concerned?
No, as far as your response is.
No. You can't get any kind of unbiased information from a committee that has all people that are for what the committee is about.
Well, at the very least, he's gonna be outnumbered if that's the case,
Join the, yeah.
If you
I'm
want to,
used that.
yeah, so, yeah, anyway, like I said, I would, it's an important institution that people on council wanna be on, I think they should be on. But, I'm not the mayor, so.
They do have a vote.
But it's a work session.
If I was king of the world, okay.
And quite honestly, this will be a public meeting, so people will be out in the public anyways, I mean, so.
There'll be plenty of time at that meeting for the public to bring opposing views.
Is it an official committee, ad hoc, standing, what?
I don't believe that the charter allows standing committees. I think-
You're allowed advisory committees,
And
for a
that's-
specific purpose.
And that's basically what this committee is. It's an advisory committee to go out and look at what options there are. And then the council is gonna ultimately have the decision to act upon any recommendations from the council. The
So-
committee has no authority.
So it will be, this one will be public notice?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Will the committee have the ability to go out and, engage people, businesses, whatever, to try and generate some income? I think that's important. And I don't know where that falls.
I don't believe that you have the authority to go out and act as an agent for the Playhouse. As a proponent of, as a citizen and proponent of the successful operation of the Playhouse, yeah, go out and talk to people and say, hey, do you want this Playhouse to keep going? If you do, we need to come up with a solution.
I would think, my response to Mr. Zemer is that, that would certainly be part of the short-term and long-term sustainability
Yeah.
question for the Playhouse. And I'm personally, and I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of Beth, if any of you wanted to go out and solicit money donated by any businesses, we're okay with that.
I wanna see this Playhouse succeed.
Well, I think that's the goal of the committee. I don't think the goal of the committee is anything other than that, and I like Tanya's, suggestion and approach of addressing the shortfall first, and if there are ways then
Yes.
to learn from that and go forward, in a more positive direction, I think it's great, but that should, I mean, my understanding is that's the goal of the committee, is to make sure that we're sustainable going forward.
Make it work.
So,
Yes.
And having two Friends of the Playhouse on there, members, I mean, there's your option, Tom, for financial, cause that's what they do. That's what they did, so having them there probably would give you some abilities to at least, okay, this works, talk to them and maybe they can go out and solicit or give you, if you come up with that idea, they can go out and do that, so.
and then as an advisory committee, they would come back to council, and then council could say, correct me if I'm wrong, council could say, yeah, go after that opportunity, or then direct from there, and then they would have the ability to go and set up fundraising or solicit that.
But the Friends of the Playhouse are not directly connected to us, even though they'd have a representative here.
Yeah.
Within their group, they could go out and.
Oh, yeah, I think they still are.
So I don't see a
Yeah.
conflict with that.
No,
No,
They're a separate 501c3 corporation.
Yes.
And they have to serve independently from the council and from any city staff.
As I said, Frank hasn't agreed to this, nor has Lori. And until this council approves this proposed committee, they won't be asked.
So is, Ms. Hunt from Montague, is she gonna, in the list now too, or?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I don't think it should be just, I mean, obviously the City of Whitehall tied to the Playhouse, but I think that it appeals to a larger area, but just the City of Whitehall
Yes, it does.
wouldn't have it would be a good idea to have somebody from outside the city on the committee. I think it sounds good.
I would like to clarify, if it's okay, Scott, Brent, your position on it, is it that you want it closed, or you're okay with it if we can find a way forward?
I've never said that I wanted the Playhouse closed. Never.
I,
I've said before many times in public that I support the arts. I think the problem with the Playhouse is the management of it.
and that's the way that I perceived it, I just wanted to get that out there. You know, I'm not opposed to have it, I would like that, Scott, on.
Here we are.
I mean, it should be balanced in my opinion too. Like I said, I
Let's
don't know
balance.
any of the other folks, so I don't know.
I'm trying to fill it up with people that wanna support it, not people that don't support it.
Well, I mean, I can, if I can clarify, Tom, you're just looking for people who might have differing ways about how to support it, right? Or not?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I'm definitely not trying to put anybody down that I don't know. But having two people on there from the Friends of the Playhouse, my guess is that they're gonna have very similar ideas. And I don't know if that's.
Lori was the chief financial officer here. I mean, she knows. Yeah, I've dealt with Lori since I was old enough to get a PO from her. And she'll scrutinize. She'll try to make it work. And Tom Bednarik, I mean, like I said, he was a county administrator. He ran the county of Muskegon for years. I mean, so those people, I do know those people, and those people would do a great job on this committee. So.
Yeah, I did. I crushed it. Oh, I'd also like to keep the door open for any outside experts, because, you know, if there are.
It's not saying they can't make a subcommittee or something like that. If you want to get a group together that's going to do the short term, then a group that's going to do the long term, and maybe two different groups. You just don't know.
That you could
depending on how the breakdown goes.
Well, I just want to make sure that door's open. If there's folks out there that might have some advice,
And like I said, they'll be run like this. There'll be public comment. There'll be people in the group and everything else. So kind of like what we do for my guess, kind of like we do for our goal session. I mean, we break down into groups and do our thing. So.
You might bring in an idea person to your committee, and he gives you ideas of good path to take in
Or she.
certain things.
Oh, you said it before I did.
What's that?
It may be a she that brings in ideas.
Oh.
He or she. We're not shaming you.
I was getting ready.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to public shame you. I'm just saying I want
You
this.
didn't, because I didn't hear it.
I mean, that's what this Amanda Hunt. We sat here and listened to her tell us she had all kinds of ideas. Okay, let's bring that person in. So I want people on the committee that want to move it in that direction. You'll still have your opportunity to say what you want to
You
say.
can be sure, I'll take it.
And I welcome that.
We should probably, under the charter, it's the mayor appoints these committees. It's not something that gets approved. The establishment of the committee was approved, but the appointment is from the mayor. Obviously, you listen to advice and consent from everybody. There's discussion about it. But at the end of the day, it's the mayor that approves under the charter.
So I guess we've had our say, and it's up to you now, Mr. Mayor.
And the list that I've proposed with the addition of Eli Gazelle and I believe Amanda Hunt.
I think she's got a different.
She's got another one in there. She's
Right.
hyphenated.
I'm sorry, I sent it to Scott.
That was about 4 hours ago. But yes, Amanda, we
We'll
have
figure it out.
We have Amanda.
and her information.
I think you have, someone has contact information for her. And I'm guessing the next step is that to the individuals, some sort of official request goes out to them and asks them to participate on this committee. And when we've got that, then I guess the plan is to try to come up with a date when this committee can first meet and start to form. Select a chairman and chairperson. And begin the process.
Kiefer, Kiefer.
So it's Hunt Kiefer?
I believe, well, she just wrote it down for me as Kiefer. Kiefer.
There you go.
Amanda, yeah.
Sounds like we have 2 or 3 really good people to lead it, to choose from for leaders. I wouldn't put myself up for that.
So you're saying you're willing to serve there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think that I like the fact that we would be Alyssa, who's city finance officer. She can answer any questions that anyone's gonna have concerning city funds and financing. And Beth can answer any questions concerning the operation of the Playhouse. I mean, we need to get the information out there to this committee, and to this public. This is what the numbers are. This is how we got where we are. And then rely on these other people to make suggestions of how we can get there. And these people that know finances can say, yes, this is a good way to go, or no, that's not a good way to go. I mean, I think it's a good mix. You got business owners that certainly support the Playhouse and want to do what they can to make it successful. I mean, I've had people ask me, well, how do you know the people of this community support the Playhouse? I think they do. I think they want it. I mean, do we need to put something out there and do a survey and ask the people, do you want this? At this point, we still owe a significant amount of money for it, so it's on us to at least do our due diligence and pay off the debt, maintain the building. I want to see this go forward, continue to offer all the wonderful arts options that it has in the past, and I hope will in the future.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Of Scott? Scott, is there anybody like Michigan Humanities Council that would be able to provide someone to assist? I'm sure Beth has probably already got contacts all over the place, but.
Yeah, I would assume that there are, and probably that would be one of the first meetings of the committee.
Okay.
But keep in mind, those of you who may have been off council for a little bit, is that with a significant donation from the Gerber Foundation. Beth, you're behind me.
I'm sorry, yes.
Did I wake you up?
No, I'm here.
I call it the Johnson Study.
Oh, yeah.
It
was from the Fry Foundation.
The Fry Foundation. They had contributed 100,000.
20, yeah, and 25.
And then 25,000 to do a study on the management of the Playhouse, which they paid for, which was to kind of, in essence, guarantee their donation. So there's already a plan, and the big stumbling block of the plan is the recommendation is that building needs 5 full-time employees. We've never, closest we've gotten is 1.5. So there's a lot of really good management information already in that study, which I wrote that down. We'll make sure that's one of the first items that the committee members take a look at.
Was that something all council can get? I'd like to take a look.
Absolutely. Yep.
Also, is there any information in there about like broadening the audience beyond the White Lake area, which I'm sure Beth already works on, just making it a regional destination or a statewide destination?
I believe there is, yes.
I'd ask the question
Come
how.
to the committee meetings and you'll find out.
I'd like to make sure that we can have an audience when we're meeting.
Most
If that sounds-
definitely.
And I don't know if, what I was wondering is what kind of notice would you legally need for that, or is that an issue? Or?
Yeah, Will's already sent me an email that basically this committee would have to comply with Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
And typically we go a little bit beyond that by posting it on social media. So we meet the minimum requirements and a little extra. So the committee will probably be gathered around, you know, a common table with plenty of access for the public and
Good.
opportunity for the public to chime in.
Can you send to council?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, I definitely want the public involved in this.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody that's listening, watching, tell your friends, tell your family, make their voice heard. I mean, that's, as a council, that's our job, is to do what the people of this community want.
Well, I think we already have a perfect example, Kara, as an audience, and she, maybe the awareness of the shortfall, we'll call it, she stepped up and is having a fundraiser, and without even having a first committee meeting, that's already taking place. So, kudos to Kara for seeing that need and stepping up, and, there are probably lots of people who will, learn about the committee meetings and come and offer up some ideas and take some things on without even being requested by the committee. So, I think that's already great.
My guess is that the community is split about 50-50. A lot of it because of lack of knowledge or whatever, or because of, that it has been a drain. But if we get just showing an effort to make it work, coming up with some new ideas and so on, I think we would get more support from the community than we have right now.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then we have a committee. I would ask staff to notify the individuals, ask for their participation on the committee, make some sort of announcement at the formation of the committee, make that an official public announcement. Is there anything else that we need to do on that? Okay.
Do you have a clear enough purpose for it?
Do we need to set any kind of goals for
When you're inviting people, do you have a clear enough purpose for that? When you invite people?
Yeah, I think we do, and I think the committee can also massage that and define their own specific goals,
Right.
short-term and long-term.
Yes.
Well, I just mean when you ask someone to join a committee, are you gonna, just have some idea what you're asking them to do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that what we're asking them to do is to work together to find a way to make the Playhouse successful. And there's the possibility that this committee will meet and say, it can't happen. Then that's another issue. But until such time as the committee has exhausted every effort to make it a success, then that's, to me, what the goal we need to pursue. And if, God forbid, we get to a point where we say we can't do it, then we have to look at what it's gonna take to do it.
I do recommend, again, dividing it into the shortfall and then longer term. I think that makes it clearer for people when you invite them on. That way they know it's not a lifetime appointment.
I certainly hope not. I'm hoping that we get some really good people here that can come up with some wonderful ideas, and within 6 months we see positive movement. Within a year we say, hey, it's well on its way to becoming self-sustaining. That's, I think, a reasonable timeline. I certainly don't want to see us 5 years from now still doing that. We can't do that. Financially, the way things are, we can't do that. Maybe we need to change the city's commitment to that playhouse.
How many more years do we have payments on it?
What's it? 2?
2 or 3.
I think 3 at the
It's
most.
not too long.
No.
4.
4? And see, and that's something that I'm hoping that I want this committee to be able to put together 1 page, 2 page, it says, here's the facts. This is where we are, this is how we got here, this is what we owe, this is what it costs to run, this is what it costs to put shows on. So everybody can know what the basic issue is with everything. And then start working on, okay, what do we do to change that? To me, the most important thing is to get that information out to the public. The transparency, if you will. I don't believe there's any information that's intentionally being withheld from the public on any of this. I think it's information that I wanna see everybody is aware of. Every council member and every citizen is a part of this deal. And as shareholders, they should understand what they're in for. With that, is there any other subjects that we want to discuss on this? At this time, we got half an hour. Open it up to public comment. Anybody out in the audience that wants to come and say something?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about what's been going on, but I like what you're saying, because as a resident of the city, I'm wondering, how did we get this $70,000 shortfall? And I don't have a business here, but I've had a business elsewhere. And I'd like to see the finances in detail so that we can see where there's places that need to be tweaked, tightened up, loosened up, and make that available to us, because when I heard 70,000, and I know the cost of redoing the whole thing, and it's a beautiful building, and I saw it years ago when it wasn't so beautiful. I like to have that knowledge, because it just seems like 70,000 is just not good management, or something's going on that needs to be fixed. So I would really appreciate, I like what you said, Steve, that to have that information made available to us too, so that we can see it and understand. Otherwise, when we go through these streets that have big bumps and I'm hearing $70,000 just got poured into the thing, and I'm still driving through the potholes, it doesn't make me real happy.
Thank you for your comments.
City of Whitehall, block 39 and 40. I think going into this, and Tanya, working with you and your cousin Norman for 2 years on the Sesquicentennial Committee, starting and not really knowing really what we were doing and how we were going to do it, the first thing you have to do is have some goals. I mean, thank you for bringing that up, Tanya. Goals in terms of what is the objective of this committee, and make sure those goals fit with the goals of the city, the goals of the state. There has to be this ladder, and they all should feed up and support, especially with something that is a business. It's an independent business. You think about it that way, you run it as a business. Every government that I've gone into, city level, state level, and federal level, every department, because that's what I did, was re-engineer all of their business processes and bring them to the point of profitability and quickness. Do it as fast as you can for as less money as you can and be profitable. I don't care if you're a government. You are a business. A university is a business. You think about it that way, Tom, you'll know that. You're a business owner. Debbie, you're a business owner. Scott, you're a business owner. Several of you have been business owners. You don't run a business. Even a nonprofit is profitable. Your blues business should be profitable, making money so you can reinvest and buy more headstones.
Right.
You don't want to keep a nonprofit with no profit. Otherwise, you have no profit business. So get those goals, write them down. What are the goals? They're beyond just making up the debt. If you come in and just do that initially, you're gonna get stuck there. I always went in, and the first thing you want to do is know where you are. Define the present. Otherwise, you don't know what the future is. You've got to have that baseline. That should be your goal. And know what's going in. You want to know very simply how much money in, how much money out. Start there, then you get more defined. Work at a very generic level and work down. Money in, money out. Money in, the color of money. What color does it come in? Is it cash? Is it from ticket sales? Is it from grants? Is it from donations? What is it from? Because then you know what you're lacking or where you could grow. Color of money, especially in a business like this, is very important, the color of money. So you do that, money in, money out, that baseline, and then you can see also your expenses. Those should be given. And to figure those, then you're gonna know where to focus your efforts on making a deficit and making sure you never see red again. Looking at everybody that's working there. What are they doing to achieve the goals of that business? There should be measurable objectives. Even when I was a professor, I had measurable objectives. You publish 2 studies every year. You present this many at a conference. You serve in the neighborhood environment, giving self your time. I served on the research ethics committee for federal prisoners. What could you do to them research-wise? No, you shall not infect them with these diseases, even though they really wanted to because they got a pack of cigarettes every week. No, you're not going to do that on death row. So you've got to, figure out what are the objectives and what are the employees? What do they do to make sure that those objectives of this business are being achieved? Again, I think that's true with everybody here. See how you should have a performance plan and measurable objectives. We have them at the state level. We have them at the Fed level. I was a director at OPM, Office of Personnel Management. It is required for every federal employee, striped and cities, military and civilians, to have performance plans. And how do you measure it? And yearly evaluations. You don't wait until we're in the swamp before you do something and help a person. So, see where we are before you know where we're going. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We have nothing else, and we'll adjourn. We're adjourned until 6 o'clock, regular council meeting. Thank you all for coming. I call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I remind council members to please speak into your microphone so people can hear you at the back of the room. First up is the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Moved in second, is there any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Agenda is approved. Next, we will open up the public hearing for the LDFA amendments.
Sure. Flipping all the way back, the Local Development Finance Authority Board has developed a new tax increment revenue plan and a new development plan and adopted both. And they're asking the city council to do likewise. The plan was included in your packet, which includes a handful of improvements. One thing that a couple of residents and property owners and business owners within the district had asked, this does not affect taxes in any means. You're still going to pay your taxes. What this does allow us to do is that we capture the growth and reinvest it in that community. And those are taxes that the county, the fire authority, in some instances, the library authority also levy. We are required to post how much revenue and how much growth, because I did have a question, somebody asked if their taxes are going to go up 79%. The taxes, other than adjustments for millage, will only, the tax liability will go up as your property values increase. So that's what we looked at, and I think we used like a 3%, somewhere between 3 and a 5% growth. So the LDFA's primary objective over the next couple of years is road improvements and some marketing. I did leave a note on your desk this evening that the Benston Street project came to us after the LDFA had approved the plan. We got good numbers from our engineers, Brian and Newhoff, and we took a look at that, and that's what's being asked to be added to the LDFA plan, subject to approval. Kind of the same thing with the tax increment finance authority, which I'll add when we get to that. So the LDFA board is asking for your support, subject to adding the Benston Street project for approval of the plan.
I have a question. The Benston Street project goes from Warner to Peach, correct?
It will actually go from Division all the way to, it'll go all the way to the city.
To the city
Pretty
limits.
much
That's
all
what I was
of
wondering, if
Benston
your
Street.
line doesn't go to the city limits up there, I just wondered.
Well, because of the oddity of the LDFA district, does not go all the way to the city boundary.
Okay.
So that Benson Street project, about 60% will be Tifa, 30% will be LDFA, and the other 10% will have to come out of the street millage.
Okay, thank you.
So the plan would be to do that whole stretch at one time.
Yeah, I was thinking we were gonna get it all done and then have about 100 yards that didn't get done, which didn't make much sense to me, so, thanks.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution 2444.
No, that's later.
That's coming
Public
after
hearing.
the public hearing. So is there any further discussion on this public hearing? If there is no further discussion, then we'll close the public hearing and ask for a resolution to approve. Do we need it
That's on your agenda for later.
later?
New business.
Okay, so, okay. So then we will move on to public hearing on Tifa. We'll open the public hearing on Tifa.
Pretty much the same. The Tax Increment Finance Authority is looking to continue with the development plan and tax increment revenue plan. One of the large items that we'd be looking at, two of them are street improvements. I know that that's been a big issue with the city council and the public. The fact of the matter is there aren't, compared to the entire street system, there aren't a whole lot of streets within the Tax Increment Finance Authority. They have been doing roads and they'll continue to focus on that. The other big one is the sewer lift station down on Lake Street and the force main up to the county lift station, basically in front of Crosswinds Marina. We'd be looking at doing that. That's well over $1 million. And when we do that, we'll relocate the sewer lift station from private property that we have an easement on to the parcel immediately to the south. That's a very huge ticket item. And one of the business owners within the district had reminded me that there was some discussion by the Tifa board about burying the overhead utilities in the 200, 300, and 400 block of Lake Street, basically by the marinas. We had initially did it in the north parking lot areas, then probably about 2002, we did it in the south parking lots, and there was some discussion. That was not originally included in the plan, but with the request of this business owner, I'm asking council later on in the agenda to approve it and include burying the overhead utilities.
So essentially to the trestle, we're pretty close to trestle then?
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the public hearing? Okay. Then we'll close that public hearing. Next is public hearing, Helmet Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate. At this point, I'd like Mr. Tim Barisik to step up and tell us about it. Please
Good
introduce
evening,
yourself.
Board, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here just to give you an update on our Plant 10 expansion. And we are thrilled to be starting this within Whitehall. I will tell you that 20 years ago, well actually in 1999, I moved up here from LaPorte, Indiana, and I was the first plant manager and project manager in building the Plant 10. So 24 years later, here we go again, right? And we really enjoy working with within the city of Whitehall. This was a project that had a lot of people really wanting this project in their state. Tennessee and Texas are amongst the more viable candidates, but there were others that we were working with. We have a 7 ways analysis that we do to determine where a plant should go, and amongst the top drivers for having this plant coming to Whitehall, Michigan, is the relationship that Helmet enjoys with the city of Whitehall and Western Michigan in general. So just as a view to what this project is looking like, we got started in early just clearing property, and in May started our construction. You can see this is a view from the west, and this was a perimeter that was poured, and when you look at it from the south, you can see where all of that work content was happening. And anybody who walks by the rail trail, if you look just right through the trees, you can see the building going up. The steel went up fairly quickly. We really enjoyed ideal weather to do the construction project. It wasn't necessarily ideal from the standpoint of rainfall for filling up the lake, for those of you who see where the lake goes down, but it was very advantageous for us in building this building, getting the steel up and all the concrete. November is what we look like. We are all dried in at this point, and we don't have any equipment in it yet, per se. There's some amount of the HVAC stuff going in and some of the electrical, and there's some kiln parts going in, but for the most part, we're just in the construction part of the project. And it is a $107 million project, of which a little over 60 million, 64, is just the building. And that's all I have to present. Again, we really love the relationship we have in Western Michigan and City of Whitehall. We get a lot of support from the city, and we try to support the city as much as we can when we're asked to do things. And I can remember when we did the expansion in Plant 1, there were some questions about the noise pollution we were getting in our steam autoclave, one of our pieces of equipment. And I took that back from this meeting and worked with John Rabeski and Bob Cowles, and we did work on some different technologies. And I think that the neighbors, in fact, I've talked to a neighbor or two walking around town, that it is quite a bit different. It's about quite a bit quieter. So that was one thing we were able to hit in time, and we were able to do something about fairly quickly. So that's kind of an example of the kind of things we like to do, and we like to be a good neighbor. So, thank you.
Any questions for me in this council? Yes. Still in the public hearing, yes. Anyone have any questions? It appears not, so at this point I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Okay, I'll make the motion. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda submitted. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
The White River Bridge reconstruction is in the West Plan 2026-2029 proposed MDOT projects as an unfunded project. Scott, do you know anything more about that?
The mayor might, that's out of the policy committee, correct?
West Plan? I don't know what they mean by that, West Plan. I've seen that referenced.
But it takes in like the west side of the west region.
Okay, it's the MDOT projects.
MDOT projects, yes.
Yeah, and it's noted as an unfunded project.
Yes, they are still studying the data that they collected this past summer when they were doing borings, and so they're still. I attend the West Michigan Regional Shoreline Development Commission's meeting every month, and every month I ask MDOT what's going on with that. Can I see the data? And they said, well, we're still gathering. So they know they're gonna have to do something there with that bridge.
So it's unfunded because they don't have a plan yet?
That's correct. They're saying they haven't analyzed all the data that they've collected. And until they do that, then they can't form a plan.
Are they also looking at the area that's gotten flooded as well?
Well, and initially talking to some of them off the record, I mean, they're looking at from, say, where Napa is, all the way to on the other side to maybe the light. I mean, it's.
Yeah, that probably is needed.
Well, they've got a plan to do something. They don't know what they're gonna do or when they're gonna do it, so. I continually poke them.
Hopefully they're gonna do it so that the infrastructure meets the demands of the weather and the flooding. And then I had one more question.
Okay.
Thanks, that's helpful.
Okay.
And don't know who has an answer on maybe in the Public Works board meeting minutes, it mentioned that, it seems like an entity called M10 or MEO was providing technical grant assistance to the city of Muskegon Heights. And then Kathy Brubaker Clark was mentioned as well, former planner for the city of Muskegon, now with MEDC. It was in the minutes. And I don't want to hold up, but I I'd be interested in knowing more about if that's an entity that might be able to help us with any technical assistance on our grants.
We can look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? I would say that we have a letter from Ms. Derby for an update of her project. At this point, would you like to come up and give us a little update on that, please?
Of course.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Maggie Derby. I'm a scout with Troop 1048G, and I have recently completed my Eagle Scout project over at the White Lake Community Library. This project spanned from the top of the hill where the library's parking lot was, all the way down to the bottom where the bike path was, and it is made up of railroad ties donated from an auto store in Hart, all the way up there, and also some wood chips donated from in town here. So that project is officially done, and I just like to thank everybody for their support, especially from the city, for everything that they've said and the recognition. That's all I've got, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. It's a wonderful, I don't know if anybody has been to the library and seen it and used it. It's a welcome addition to the trail there, and it's very easy to walk on. You did a great job. Thank you very much for your efforts on behalf of the community. Anything else in the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda say yes?
Yes. Yes.
Opposed say no. Consent agenda is approved. Next up, messages from the mayor, city manager, and council. Let's start with city council. Tanya, do you have anything for us tonight?
Well, just one thing, the energy efficiency, if we could put that on the work session. Next one.
I didn't hear you.
Sorry, the energy efficiency, reports that we got, which I think, was very lengthy, very helpful for the buildings. If we could put that on the next work session coming up, and Scott, I don't know if it's possible, but are you able to pull all of the measures out, because it was quite a read, and I'm not sure we need all of. I mean, I'd like to see what's the list of 20 things that are proposed for this building, 20 for DPW, other buildings. I think that would be easier for me, anyways, to see that, and then I'm just imagining department heads could kind of look at low, medium, and high priority, and we could just start checking them off.
Sure.
But I'd like to see it like that if possible. If you could pull those out. Thank you.
Scott, I'm wondering, we launched the text, the system where we can text, the city can text, and is that being utilized? Are there a lot of people who've signed up to receive text?
Brooke can listen to me, but I
No,
don't think
that's
so.
okay.
We can check with Brooke and Alyssa on that.
I'm curious to know if there's could we use that to help advertise, like, that we're having a council meeting, or that there's a show at the theater, or those kinds of things as an additional avenue to, the required announcements as well as the social media, but it seems like it could be a potential way to reach people pretty quickly on their phones. And just announce, just a reminder, hey, there's a council meeting tonight, or a different meeting, or whatever. It seems like a good venue, if that's an appropriate use of that system.
It can be, yeah. And it can go both ways. They can report and ask questions of us, and we can send out messages. We
You're
recently.
talking to your mic.
Oh, yes.
We can't hear you.
Okay, thank you, sorry thank you for the reminder, and my apologies. What I asked was that if there's a text messaging system that you can sign up for at the city, and they can then send out alerts, like if there's a water main break or some kind of thing like that. I was asking if it would be possible to utilize that system to advertise council meetings, planning meetings, any kind of meetings at the city, or shows at the theater, or something like that, in addition to the required public announcements that have to happen in the paper and the notifications that have to go out, as another avenue for letting people know what's going on. Is that better? Could you hear me? Okay, thank you.
Did you hear me?
Only when you get really close.
Like this?
You need to be close.
Closer?
We can hear you now.
What, you want me to hug it?
Yes.
Did you hear what I had to say about the energy efficiency? Okay, so the City of Whitehall applied to a state program called Restart, where they could say some things they wanted to have done and then have free help from a retired sustainability expert. So we actually, Scott must have done an amazing job, right, Scott? Because we got advice for 3 buildings, not just one. Normally they just give advice on one. And so they gave a variety of energy efficiency measures that could be done in some pretty lengthy reports that we got at the last meeting. And, some of them are like, use power strips and, things like that. Some of them are a little more costly, so there's levels of priority. And they're for 3 buildings. And what I've asked is if Scott could pull all of those suggestions for the different buildings out so we could see them on a list rather than in the lengthy documents that were provided to us. So is this better?
Yes. Good.
Okay, I'm trying. Just let me know.
Megaphone.
I'm trying.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay.
I would like to suggest that at the next work session, we begin the process of putting a plan together for looking for the next city manager. Can we put that on the work agenda for next time, the work session?
Yes, I believe we can do that.
That's all I got.
All right. Jeff.
I know it was discussed last meeting by me, but my grandchildren approved the Santa Claus and the reindeer. So I'd let that be known. Santa Claus and the reindeer. Down here. Go take a ride through town, Kim.
I've seen him.
I think you need to go ahead and run a city off.
Well, we might be working on some other things for there, but we'll see how it rolls.
Scott?
Well, Tom stole one of the 2 things I had, which is fine. The other one is did we ever end up with any kind of figures on what the deer call was in the city this year? I figured you were going to steal that.
I was going to do that. I forgot.
Going from
Thank
memory.
Yeah, not a lot. I feel like there were from one couple. There's one couple that's working one of the properties. Oh my goodness, Ritterman's property. It was like 2 doe, 1 buck, and then I needed to get clarification from another person that just reported today. They were giving out like all of how many seen.
Oh.
But I didn't capture really how many he actually. It looked like just a buck and a doe. So, but again, we're not getting reports from everyone.
Everybody. So. How many different people did we authorize to hunt? Do we know that?
I can get back to you on it. I don't know.
I assume the amount of properties went up when we
definitely.
Went from
we've had
6 down to 3, right?
We've had additionals that added on this year, but
we didn't know if people applying to hunt had gone up at all or not.
Yes, but not a ton.
I think one of the Crane property probably had one. Yeah, Justin, I know, got the second big buck.
Yeah, I haven't.
You got one last year, one this year.
Yeah.
Because I saw
Looks like we're looking at maybe about the same thing we had last year, even though we
reduced
cut the amount of land you needed in half. Still, okay, that's all I have.
Thank you,
Steve. Well, I'm going to go on a couple of things that were already talked about. One is the Christmas lights, kind of in a way. I mean, they're just, really nice. I just really appreciate the effort they put into the Christmas lights in town this year. And I hope we can get those trees back that got taken out by the car and the light pole. Now, I don't know.
And the
Is
bench.
that- Huh?
And a bench went too.
A bench too now, is that covered by somebody's insurance or?
I would imagine that there will be a claim against the driver.
Okay. And the other thing on the deer, I saw that Montague just approved that people could hunt on city property there. Now, how they're administering that, I don't know, but I would like to see us look into that maybe at the next meeting or something, because with this culling, we're supposed to be taking out, narrowing the number of deer down, and a friend of mine who hunts just outside the city limits said last night he had 35 deer by him, and that's just in a couple hours. And so we're really not affecting the numbers of deer yet in the city, and we might be moving them around a little by people hunting them, but I think we ought to open up some of the city properties and look at how Montague is doing it, and to maybe, not to say Montague does everything better than us, but they did approve city property for hunting. So I think we should look into that.
I think county also does, at least on the wastewater, I think allows.
Oh, yeah.
And that's usually by lottery. We could do that as well. It would work. Because I've had more than one person ask me about that. And, same thing.
There's a lot of city property that's
There's
full of
yeah.
autumn olive, and that's where they hang out.
Yep, there
They
is.
just
We could
live in there.
Yeah, I think we could work through it.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. I will certainly ditto on the Christmas decorations, and I can tell you that I've got the same, appears to be the same 3 deer showing up at the buffet in my backyard every night, so we do have deer in the city.
Oh, yeah.
Scott, do you have anything for us?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
All right, then we'll move on to public comment. Anyone that'd like to make a public comment, please step up, introduce yourself, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay.
I'm gonna have a question. Jim Schmidt, live on Division Street. Would there be a possible way of me getting some kind of documentation as to the benefits financially that the City of Whitehall has experienced over the last 20 years or so from the tax abatements that have been granted to Helmet? Who would I talk to about that?
I would think that was something that we would have to go back into records with the treasurer and city manager could come up with something that would answer those questions.
I'd like to see, because I've lived here about 23 years or so, and it seems every 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, Helmet gets a tax abatement. So I'd like to know if we're giving them that release of taxes, how is that increasing our financial standing? So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Anyone else? All right, let's move on to old business. I don't believe we have any old business to conduct, so we'll move on to new business, resolution 2444, TIFA amended plans.
I'll move resolution 24-44, TIFA amended plans for, how long does this go now? Is there a time limit on this?
Yes. That's an easy question that I'm drawing a blank on. Probably duration. Will expire in June 2040.
Okay, that's the resolution I'm moving to the table right now.
I'll second that.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this?
I just have one, I don't know if we want to call it a question or a for instance for Scott or and Will maybe. We've been working on our final draft for nominate, how we nominate, no. What am I? Wow, did I get lost?
Okay.
Well, yeah. How we do our nominations, and we've never really gotten a finalized version of it yet. And on both this proposal and the next proposal, there are a couple paragraphs on page 2 that deal with, appointments and committees and unexpired terms, etc. And I'm just wondering whether we need to approve our plan that we've been working on that we haven't got a final draft on yet before we do something like this, or if we approve this now and the plan is different than what this says, does the plan take precedence over this, or?
No, the appointment of the board of directors is by state law. So this would take precedence over our appointment policy.
Okay.
Is that aspect of the appointment part of state law where it says that an appointment to fill a vacancy, that the member shall hold office until their successor is appointed? Is that dictated by state law? Because that conflicts basically with the nominations process that we have going.
I think that is state law on that, but we can confirm.
Yep.
So we have a motion? Yeah, we have a support. Is there any further comments, questions on it?
I've just got questions for going forward. I know that we've had quite a few questions about TIFA and some of the projects and things, and okay, thank you, Scott. I know we've had a number of questions about TIFA plans and things like that, and I think, I don't think that any of this would disallow us saying, hey, maybe we wanna have a joint meeting with the TIFA board once a year to chat with them, or, you know what I mean? Or maybe we want to, every couple of months have a TIFA representative come and, talk about some of the projects. Or, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't provide feedback on plans, recognizing that we have no authority. I mean, maybe it would help inform the folks on the board if they knew what we thought. So I would and maybe that's a work session item going forward, but I think maybe it would help address some of the questions that have been raised about lack of council ability to or perceived lack of ability to impact those plans. So anyway, that's just an item for a work session if that makes sense.
Just a point to clarify, Scott, under the authority employees, it talks about the board can appoint a director, secretary. Is that staff? Are those usually held by?
Yep, currently I serve as director, secretary, and Alyssa serves as the treasurer.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't think we had additional people, and then legal counsel as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sittengeld,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2444 is approved. Next is resolution 2545.
Saying 24.
Did we say it?
24.
Well, I'm reading 25 on my sheet.
Yep.
Correct.
I did.
Sorry.
It was a long
So
meeting
it's,
tonight.
okay, so it's 2445.
I'll make a motion
Oh,
to
I see.
Who is it?
move resolution 2445 to the floor.
Second.
Been moved and seconded now. Now, for discussion on this. Anyone have any questions or comments?
I do have one here.
Okay.
It says, I lost my place here, but it says that there's 4 projects that are pending approval of this. It says that there's 4 projects approved in the works dependent on this being passed, and I'm wondering if those 4 projects were.
Page you on?
I'm not sure, I lost track.
It's on the bottom. You're towards the back, aren't you?
Oh, here it is, top of page 10. It says with 4 pending projects dependent on the passage of this amendment.
The 4, we are closing on, we're moving forward with closing on 2, and 2 are still pending. Those are basically property acquisition. The LDFA board and their architectural review committee has approved 2 of them. One is Erickson Crane.
Okay.
And why am I forgetting the other one?
Olin?
Balon.
Balon.
And there's still 2, I guess you could say, in the hopper that are considering purchasing property and moving forward.
Okay.
So they're not dependent on the amendment passing, it's just the number that we had to put as far as job creation.
Okay.
Since 2 have already closed, if this were denied, they would still close. The others, if this were denied, would now be brought to the city council for review and approval. Because if the LDFA board doesn't exist, you now serve as realtors for the industrial park.
Are we likely to get exemptions, tax exemption type things from these 2 that are in the planning already?
One would not be classified as manufacturing. The other, I would have to double check, but neither have asked for an abatement.
But it could.
Depending on the process actually being used by the Balon development.
I know something about that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay.
I might talk to him about that.
If there's no further discussion, roll call please.
Brown,
Yes.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2445 is approved. Next is resolution 2446.
I'll move resolution 2446, industrial facilities exemption certificate.
I will second that.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'll throw my 2 cents out that I throw out at every one of these. I'm not a big fan of any tax abatements of any kind for anything. I just don't like corporate pork, so I'm not really in favor of it. So I would make a motion to amend it from 12 years to 7 years.
I don't know, is that, would you ask someone to amend the motion? Because don't we have do we have a motion?
We do have a motion,
In a second, so that would be,
but the second is asking for an amendment to the first. So the
is that
second
what
isn't
you're
supporting.
asking?
That's what I thought I asked for.
I
but-
thought somebody else seconded it.
I seconded the original motion, yes.
Okay, so.
Scott made another motion, so he needs a second on his motion.
I don't know if is that the way we do things?
I think we need to take care of the first motion that was
Yeah.
submitted.
We've got a motion on the floor, if you, otherwise you could ask for a friendly amendment with the one that's there, right?
That's what I assumed he was doing.
Oh.
There's a motion in support to approve resolution 2446, which would grant a 12-year abatement.
Okay.
I think Mr. Brown is offering a friendly amendment to reduce that to 7 years,
So he's
which I
asking
think is,
if,
yeah,
okay.
which would require a support and then a vote on that motion.
That
The
doesn't,
7 years.
okay. For some reason I thought that would mean that the original ones would have to agree to that. I'm wrong?
No, I think it's a superseding motion.
Okay.
I would second if that allows us to discuss it.
Okay, so the second motion is to approve the facilities exemption certificate for 7 years as opposed to what's presented as 12. So we have a second on that, so we're open to discuss the 7 year. It appears as though the 12 is off the table.
No,
If it's voted on.
if it's voted in favor.
Right.
Yes.
It's
But
just
that's
to
what-
change it to 7, still would have to be approved.
Right, so we're still discussing 7 years now, not 12.
Well, the reason I seconded it so I could talk is actually I'd like to address the folks from Howmet if that's okay. Because I agree with you, we have a great relationship with Howmet. We love Howmet being here and everything. It is a big part of the city. And the city being so, it's a small town. And we have financial constraints and all of that. And I don't know what the right number is, whether it's 12 years. There's a lot of people asking about, well, why do we give such a long abatement? And I don't know if 12 years is the right one. I would suggest 8 years or whatever. But I guess my question, and I don't know if this is politically correct or not or whatever, would you folks do you have the ability, would you be agreeable to accepting a little bit less than 12 years? I mean, we're not wanting to make enemies or anything like that. So I'd ask you, would you do 8? Would you do 10 as opposed to 12? Because we love you guys and all of that. That's the question.
Can I interject slightly?
Sure.
Yes.
As was mentioned earlier, that this was literally a dogfight between Whitehall, Texas, and Tennessee. And Howmet, fully knowing that any discussions they had with staff still needed council approval, as well as part of it for Tifa. But when we're laying all our cards on the table, that is what steers a lot of these decisions to be made. And it also incentivized the state of Michigan, which I think you all saw the press release, who committed $6.6 million towards this project.
Right.
So it's an entire package. So yes, you're kind of putting them on the spot. They will have to accept whatever number you vote on. But I think it might steer some of the discussions away from Whitehall if we don't be very aggressive. Ohio and Indiana in years past, the state builds facilities for them, and that's your building is $40 million. Michigan has never been economically at the table when these projects have come forward.
Not competitive, yeah.
Not competitive at all. So I guess that's just my 2 cents, is that we need to maintain our competitive edge as best as we can. So I'll leave it back to them answering your question.
Well, and I know all that. I understand. But we've given $600,000 for the site prep in this and everything, and I'm just kind of throwing that up. Or could you throw us a bone and give us $15,000 towards the playhouse or something? Because we've never.
Really caution against statements along that line. So
okay.
One of the forms that we have to fill out is an affidavit between the city and Howmet, is that there was no exchange or favors given in consideration of this abatement.
No extortion. May I?
Favors.
Favors, yes, thank you. So, may I? Please, yes.
So, I'm not keen on these either, okay? I've been on council, it was 14 years the first time and on, so I've been through a bunch of these. So what I've learned to do is what I've learned, I look at this and I go, okay, look, $610,000 in new taxes, even if we give me abatement, that's a starting point. It's gonna do nothing but go up the next 12 years. That number is not gonna go down. That's 610,000 we got coming into the city coffers.
That's
Right.
total non-homestead
Total
taxes. Now,
okay.
the TIFA will capture a huge
A
portion
bunch
of that,
yes.
but that's not all
So
city taxes.
if it stayed the way it was and ground and everything else, we wouldn't see any of that. We're seeing that. We're seeing 300 more people coming to town, potentially building or moving into town and buying groceries here and being in the school and raising a family and everything else. That's in amongst itself is just huge. Utilizing our parks.
I understand.
But yeah, and that's the way I look at it. It's huge. I mean, and you look at and you start looking at the news and you start seeing what these other states are giving these people to have a plant built in their facility, especially automotive. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, I've got relatives that do that, and it's like, wow, it's so competitive, it's cutthroat almost. But we got them here, and I'm looking at it, we wouldn't have a dime, but now we've got this. So
Well, for me, it was just throwing the question out.
yeah.
I don't know.
And I had
But-
my understanding of it too initially was like, oh geez, but it's
And
The other point, maybe it's the wrong time to mention it, but the other thing that I would say is I would like to see us make sure that it does end up being the 300 jobs, that we do audit that in some way or fashion. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. We can ask for a report, and the city council, based upon the agreement, always has the right to call Howmet to the table and start the proceedings to recommend to the state tax commission that the IFT be revoked in regards to failure to meet promises and expectations. And that goes to the Willow Run manufacturing facility in Ypsilanti years ago. Made a lot of promises, got a ton of tax breaks, and walked as soon as they could. I'd also, subject to, like, I'm in the ballpark, Scott, I think this is about $15 million a year in payroll. The 300 jobs at 27 something an hour, 28? Yeah. So that's another factor.
In reality, a lot of them are not going to be people from Whitehall. A lot of them will be.
They're going to be in Whitehall.
They'll be here to work at least.
Buy fuel, eat.
Go to the
playhouse.
It's one of the questions I get asked a lot is, do we ever follow up and ask whether these jobs were created or not? And so I'd like to have that in here. And if it's in writing, we don't have to ask later permission or whatever like that. I'd just like to verify that.
I recall that same thing coming up on another Howmet that was like 70 jobs, but this was probably 15 years ago. And I'm sure that there was never any problem with that. In fact, I think there was more jobs than that came in because of that IFT we granted back then. I think that was for the one down by the lake.
Can't hear you, Steve.
Pardon?
Can't hear you.
You got to
Can't hear
talk
me?
closer.
The one down by the lake got a similar thing for 70 jobs, I believe it was, probably 12 to 15 years ago when I was on the council. And there was, people worried about whether those 70 jobs were gonna be there. And there was never an issue with that. They came through with what they promised and there was never a problem. And there might have been another one. We've had several of these. I think the one on Benston Road grew before it added some jobs too. I can't keep track of the numbers of the plants.
I think they're at 2,400 employment right now. Okay. Okay.
But I mean, which plant number? I
Well, that's all of them, that's not one plant.
Oh, okay, but I mean, if you might have plant 1, plant 10, plant 6, plant whatever, 3. I can't remember which one's which, but I know we've had several of these, and I think they've always come through with the jobs that they promised. So
The only time the job numbers have significantly dropped were during COVID when the airline industry shut down. Other than that, I think it's either been, it's probably been a steady growth all along.
Yes.
But we can certainly have something in the agreement. We can amend the agreement where it says that they'll report the number of jobs related to this tax abatement on an annual basis.
So if we're gonna add that, do we have to not vote on this, or?
No, we can just, there's a separate agreement between the city and Howmet as far as job creation and investment. We can add that as a simple line item.
I just want to throw one more thing out there for the Howmet people that are here. I have nothing against Howmet, provided for my family for 41 plus years. You know, with me, it's the taxes. You know, I mean, it's just the concept of the giveaway is what sticks with me. I have nothing against Howmet whatsoever. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. If Amy's still around, you can tell her I said hi.
Me too. I want to make sure that everybody here loves Howmet, and just trying to express my personal feelings and what I get asked a lot, about how much is the city really benefiting, and I know it's a lot, so I'll just leave it there.
Well, and can you clarify, Scott, that it's not, the abatement is not zero taxes? Because that was a question I had and I got asked about it, so that was a learning for me. So could you explain that it's half the tax value and not zero tax?
Absolutely. The investment taxable value is always half of the value, which would bring it down to $20 million, and the abatement actually puts a $10 million IFT value on it. And on that $10 million, then the roughly 61 mils that is levied for non-homestead is assessed against that. So the $610,000 is new taxes on this investment.
does that include equipment inside, or is that something?
Don't tax that anymore, do we?
We do not. That is a state tax now, and I think I don't know if I explained it real well. Sometimes when you read all those laws and everything, it's hard to put it in English, but personal property taxes are now basically assessed at the state level.
Okay.
I have one question for them. I don't know, proprietary. Is this a new process you guys are putting in this plan, or is this something you're expanding? Just nod your head. I was curious. I don't. If it's something new, you guys are new market. You guys don't need to go into that. I just wasn't sure. So,
if I may.
Yes, please.
So I didn't say this in the beginning, but I'm Jim Bresix, and I'm the Director of Continuous Improvement and Operations for Howmet. I've been with Howmet for 41 years. I've worked in Dover, New Jersey, worked in Hampton, Virginia. I've worked in Indiana, where I raised 2 little girls. And then I moved up here in 1999, where I survived raising 2 teenage girls. Okay? So I've been around for a while. I've seen a lot of different plants and in a lot of different areas. And I would just reiterate the relationship that is between a company and the city is extremely important for any decisions about further growth or growth in general, right? And Jeff, I appreciate your comments because you seem to understand exactly what the bottom line is, and I understand the whole idea about not wanting to give away more than you need to give away. But we did have a lot of discussions about the plant and where the plant goes in competition with other plants. So I didn't say that, but I wanted to make sure that you knew. I've been in a lot of different areas, and I love Western Michigan. I can't imagine living anywhere but Western Michigan, so I'll die here. That being the case, Howmet makes the most advanced single crystal turbine blades and vanes in the world. I like to say planet because I haven't been to other planets, but for sure, on this one, there's no one, when you need a high pressure, you guys work there, when you need a high pressure turbine blade or a vane, Pratt, Whitney, GE, they all end up with us. And a big chunk of the reason why we're here is because of the relationship with the people, and the relationship with the colleges, and the relationship with the technical schools to keep people coming. And it really does come together that way. So I will just leave it at this in answer to your question. We make the most advanced technically turbine blades and vanes on the planet.
So,
I had a few.
I don't think that answered your question.
Oh, I know what he means.
Yeah.
But my understanding that it was gonna be ceramic cores that they were gonna be doing there.
So yeah, let me reiterate that. So the ceramic cores is what in fact we are making in this new building. The ceramic core is a raw material for the turbine blades that we make. And as it turns out, much of the again, you guys have worked there, the technology on how to cool the turbine blade is all in the core and how you make the core. So there's a lot going on in that I cannot really tell you too much about.
Okay.
Other than to say that it is the core manufacturing facility, and it is the heart of how you make a turbine blade valuable to an engine maker.
Thank you.
I did have I just wanted to reiterate, I felt like Steve and I served years ago, a long time ago.
Wow.
And it was a long time ago. But I felt the same way that when I got on I didn't like this, the kind of what I felt was the corporate giveaway. And then as I began to serve, I found out that every community is doing this. So it's a little hard for one community to not offer this type of incentive if you want to keep your companies here. So keep competitive. So to me that's very important. I noticed questions about this kind of thing, and I really would encourage us to put on a work session. Maybe Scott, you're going to be gone in a year or less than a year, but
I'll be retired, don't say I'm gone.
Oh. I will rephrase that. You will not be sitting there, but I think it's helpful for us to consider, do we want to be doing things like this? Because I'm not crazy about stopping approach that we're using in midstream with like our largest employer. So if we want to talk about, do we really want to give tax abatements, because we do give them to most of our companies. I don't want to be talking about it with our largest employer, but it also begs the question, I would like more of you to live around here. And so I think that looks at the housing issue. Muskegon County is in dire lack of housing, and I think it'd be great to have more of you living here. Oh, good.
They can do a Whitehall incentive. I mean, they could give them a few dollars.
Well, just something to think about. That's why I keep bringing up affordable housing. I think we need to have places for people who want to work here, who want to go to a coffee shop, populate our restaurants, things like that.
Absolutely.
But I'm not interested in changing how this has been put together at this point.
And this is for 12 years. You got to think long term. A lot of these ones that we approved back when we were here many years ago together, those have already expired, and so now we're collecting 100% of that tax. Isn't that right? Isn't that the way it works? Yeah. So eventually, you're going to get the whole amount anyway. So, and in the meantime, you're getting half of it, which is
better than none.
Half of what you. It's half of it is way more than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I look at it.
I'll just throw out one more thing I've been opposed to any exemption certificate for anybody since I've been on the council. Just so that clarifies that.
I'm concerned about the reduction. I mean, we started at 12, and it appears now we're at 7.
We have to vote on that, whether or not you want to amend it to the original one. Do you want to change it to 7? So I need to do a roll call on that to see if that would even be
7, and I'm
right.
How about I make this easier and withdraw my motion to go to 7 years? Or do I have to do that by a motion, or?
You can withdraw it, providing the person who supported it agrees to withdraw.
I'll support the withdrawal.
Thank
Make
you.
it easier?
Thank you. Thank you both. So we are back to the original resolution that calls for a 12-year.
Correct. And let me know when you're ready for the roll call.
Unless there is further discussion. Let's have a roll call, please.
Okay. Sittenga,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand. Yes. Kabala,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2446 is approved. Thank you for bringing your plant to our community. Thank you for your continued support of this community. I look forward to the continued positive relationship between Howmet and the City of Whitehall. We'll move on to Resolution 2447, Automated Clearinghouse Policy.
I will move resolution 2447, automated clearinghouse policy, otherwise known as ACH, if that helps people. It's a very common abbreviation that Scott's gonna explain, right?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Now we may discuss this. Is there anyone that has any questions?
Yes.
It's just basically entering the real world as we live in it today. It allows for automatic payments from bank accounts for utility payments. We do have credit card payments set up now, but this will be the automatic. We would be allowed to go into an account and withdraw the money to pay, mostly for utility bills.
Is that clear to everyone? Further conversations? Roll call, please.
Kabala,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Sittenga,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2447 is approved. Next, we have public comment. Anyone wants to make a comment on anything they want to talk? Do we have any students in the room that need to identify themselves? It appears not, so. Do we have anyone that wants to say anything? All right. Thank you all for coming. We are adjourned.
Which pen did I have, Jeff? Oh, right
Front of
here.
the mayor. Yeah.
Oh, okay.